Tonight, Missouri families are picking up the pieces of their home.
And it's destroyed in about a minute.
After a tornado reminds them
This can be replaced.
of what matters most. Plus, Mid-Missourians are walking out protesting a vaccine mandate.
It's my body, it's my choice.
But it's not just happening here. Strikes across the nation happening today. And Facebook dealing with a crisis as a company after a report suggests it's prioritizing profits over safety. This is KOMU 8 News at 10.
Coverage you can count on. KOMU 8 News starts now.
Today has been a day of cleanup for many across the state after tornadoes hit yesterday. Good evening, everyone. I'm Noah Klein. Thanks so much for joining us. KOMU 8's Elise Schoenig shows us how one Missouri man spent most of the day picking up the pieces and got help cleaning up his home.
A lifelong project.
Yeah, I've spent my whole life building this.
At the end of the day, the people we love are the pieces that make a house, a home. Reporting in.
That was Elise Schoenig reporting. KOMU 8 News also spoke with a few other homeowners with property destroyed, and they all echoed Anderson. They're feeling lucky to be alive and lucky to be surrounded by loved ones. Friends and family are still helping Anderson clean up his home. Sticking with this story here, storms also pushed through southeast Missouri. People are cleaning up in the town of St. Mary. The National Weather Service says it found evidence of EF3 level damage near Frederickstown, which is south of St. Louis. So far, no injuries have been reported there. And the storms hit the western side of the state as well. Take a look at this video here from Sedalia. You can see crews picking up tree branches during that cleanup. The National Weather Service confirms Sedalia saw two EF0 important correction there, tornadoes last night. Bringing in our expert here, Matt Beckwith, joins us. You were here yesterday tracking these storms, and we're getting a look now at those storm reports. What can you tell us?
Yeah, there were really a couple of distinct areas. Of course, the two EF0 tornadoes that touched down near Sedalia, a line of storms up to the north, eventually producing those tornadoes in Linn County, rated EF2 at this point. One brief touchdown in southern Camden County that was rated EF1, and then things really got a lot more active off towards the east between St. Louis and Cape Girardeau near Frederickstown, where we had that EF3 tornado, and you can see three separate tornadoes there at one point, three separate areas getting hit by one tornado. And
so we're looking at the map here. We look a lot to our east, a lot to our west, but Columbia and mid-Missouri really seems like it kind of lucked out here with this system.
Yeah, let's explain why. So here's the satellite and radar loop from yesterday, and notice that we saw a couple rounds of showers and thunderstorms. That first round of showers and storms that really moved through around the 3 o'clock hour used up just enough of our energy that it helped weaken those storms as they moved through central Missouri. In Columbia, Jefferson City, we saw some strong wind gusts and some heavy rain. That was it, thankfully.
Matt, we'll check back in just a few minutes. Across the nation today, workers gathered to protest the federal vaccine mandate, including right here in mid-Missouri. A few dozen 3M employees walked off the job in Columbia today to protest the company's enforcement of that mandate. KOMU 8's Peyton Headley tells us why people are even willing to lose their job over it.
This is our form of escalation.
Aaron Weibel was one of dozens of 3M employees who clocked into work today.
And it just seems like they're kind of saying that we're replaceable.
That was KOMU 8's Peyton Headley reporting in Columbia. 3M sent a statement to KOMU 8 News regarding the protest today, saying it will comply with the federal vaccine mandate because it's a federal contractor with more than 100 employees. Under that mandate, workers have until December 8th to either get vaccinated or be reviewed for termination. It's the night before the deadline to file for Columbia's 2022 mayoral election. Remember, after Mayor Brian Treese announced he will not run for re-election, 4 people are now running for that position. KOMU 8's Jacob Murphy is here in the studio to introduce us to those new candidates. Jacob.
Noah, both Tanya Heath and Randy Minshew announced today that they will be running for mayor, joining Barbara Buffalo and David Seaman, who both announced their runnings in earlier weeks. Heath is currently employed at the University of Missouri School of Journalism and is a wellness practitioner, according to a press release. Minshew is on the board of directors for Phoenix Programs, an addiction recovery center in Columbia. Seaman is a Columbia School Board member and is looking to become Columbia's first black mayor. Buffalo is a former sustainability manager in Columbia and served for 11 years before stepping down in May. For a more detailed look at who the candidates are, you can go to our website at KOMU.com. In the studio, Jacob Murphy, KOMU 8 News.
Looking nationally, questions surrounding the social media giant Facebook are growing louder. A former employee shares her perspective with members of the UK Parliament in London. NBC's Jay Gray explains the testimony also included inside information.
There is growing concern and evidence, some say, that social media giant Facebook prioritizes growth and profits over user safety, and as a result continues to promote dangerous, divisive content and misinformation.
Safety and security.
A process now being questioned by governments, journalists, and users around the world. Jay Gray, NBC News.
Facebook is still facing backlash over actions taken involving that January 6th attack. The social media app has also been criticized for vaccine misinformation, among other problems. Okay, Matt, we'll check back. Thanks very much. The Central Missouri Foster and Adoption Association is looking to rebuild a playground after it burned down early Thursday morning. No one was hurt, but the Jefferson City Fire and Police Departments are investigating to determine the start of the fire. The fire left little to nothing behind. Reports say heavy fire consumed the ground material and playground equipment. The president of the association says the playground has been effective in their mission to comfort visitors.
Just to see kids out here just playing, laughing, enjoying themselves, we think it heals trauma, and that's why we need to rebuild our playground back.
The fire also melted the fence and damaged other areas surrounding the playground. Staff members hope to build or purchase a new playground through volunteers and donations in the future. Looking nationally, new developments tonight on COVID-19 vaccines with kids. Moderna says its vaccine generated a strong immune response in younger children. The pediatric doses of Pfizer's vaccine are ready to go for children between 5 and 11 years old. Tomorrow, an advisory board will meet to discuss emergency use authorization approval. Officials in some states are already getting ahead of an expected authorization. Also nationally, the Biden administration announced today it plans to take steps to increase the availability of rapid at-home COVID-19 tests while also making them more affordable. It's part of a new $70 million program that will help manufacturers produce data needed as part of the regulatory process. Experts say the test can be particularly helpful due to the similarity of the flu and COVID-19 symptoms. Kansas City plans to bid for the 2024 Republican National Convention. The Kansas City Mayor's office confirmed that news today. Officials say the RNC committee contacted city officials in recent weeks. The committee asked for the city to submit a bid to host the convention. The delegation from Kansas City will make a presentation on the city tomorrow in D.C. The meeting will be a chance for city officials to learn about what the RNC wants in a host city. Vice President Kamala Harris met with climate change leaders today ahead of the deadline for Congress to pass President Joe Biden's economic agenda on the 31st. She thanked the group for their work to help pass the bipartisan infrastructure deal and the Build Back Better agenda. Vice President Harris also spoke about the United Nations climate report and the need for action.
These are the issues that we are focused on. These are the issues that we are prioritizing. And the negotiations continue, as you all know. But I wanted to come by to also tell you that we, the President and I and our administration, are unwavering in our commitment to these issues. Absolutely unwavering.
Congress has until Sunday to pass President Biden's economic agenda. Heavy rain and flooding hit Sacramento overnight. Street flooding, power outages, and downed trees were reported. The event brought rain to a drought-stricken area that has been prone to wildfires. After going 212 days without rainfall, Sacramento now has new records for October. All right, Matt, thanks so much. One holiday or any day favorite, I don't judge. It might not be on the shelves this holiday season. We'll explain coming up. Here's what's happening right now. The House committee investigating the January 6th attack is deferring its request for several dozen pages from President Donald Trump's administration. This comes as the panel is investigating the Capitol siege and sought out documents connected to former President Trump. Let's talk consumer news, folks. If you normally give someone their favorite spirit for the holidays, you might need to come up with a plan B here. This comes as officials warn that stuffing your stockings with liquor won't be an option this year. Liquor stores will likely have bare shelves and fewer bottles. Officials expect the shortage, get ready, will continue for another 8 to 12 months.
For sunshine returns for the weekend, cooler next week.
Matt Beckwith, the only man I know who can track severe weather for, 10 hours yesterday and then not know what day it is today.
Yeah, that's why.
It happens.
But, when it matters most.
Weather IQ, what day is yesterday?
Yesterday was Sunday.
Sunday. We'll see you tomorrow. Tuesday. Tonight, more protests against 3M's vaccine mandate, but it's not just the workers who are upset.
Plus, today the state played 6 hours of secret audio recordings in the murder trial of Joseph Elledge.
And Missouri children can now receive a COVID-19 vaccine. This is KOMU 8 News at 6.
Coverage you can count on. KOMU 8 News starts now.
Here's what's happening right now. Jurors just finished listening to 9 hours worth of conversations between Mengshi Ji and Joseph Elledge. Good evening, everyone. I'm Noah Klein. Thanks so much for joining us tonight. It's day 3 of the Joseph Elledge murder trial. The jury is now watching new evidence. KOMU 8's Peyton Headley joins live from the Boone County Courthouse. Peyton, you just stepped out of the courtroom. What evidence is the jury looking at now?
Right now, the court is watching a 3-hour interview of Joseph Elledge with CPD detectives from October 15th, 2019. That's just 5 days after he reported his wife as missing. And before that, we listened to hours of arguments between the two in secretly recorded conversations. We listened to 12 of those audio recordings over the past 2 days. 2 of those were from G's phone, the other 10 were from Elledge.
It's been a terrible relationship. I'm eager to end it. So what do you think about that?
That was just a 15-second section of 9 hours. Elledge was the primary speaker in most of those recordings. Some were civil conversations, others were screaming arguments. And at different points you can hear Elledge, Mengshi, and their daughter all crying. The jury, attorneys, judge, and the defendant listened through wireless headphones. The rest of the court listened through a speaker in the front. And throughout all of the recordings, Elledge sat emotionless, writing down notes on his notepad. And the defense tried to suppress that 3-hour interview with detectives that they're watching right now, saying that Joseph wasn't read his Miranda rights. The prosecution argued that he was never in custody, so those Miranda rights weren't necessary, and therefore the judge allowed it. The prosecution said he hopes to go a little later tonight and end around 7 p.m. Reporting live in Columbia, Peyton Headley, KOMU 8 News.
What's happening right now, firefighters are working to put out a fire in Osage Beach. We'll start with what we know here. The fire started around 3 at a home on Stone Ledge Circle, mile marker 20 at the lake. The home is in a gated community. Several fire departments were on the scene. Some are still there. In terms of what we don't know if there's any injuries here or what caused the fire. We'll bring you the latest tonight at 9 and 10. A movement is growing in Columbia against the federal vaccine mandate. State lawmakers and others joined 3M employees at a protest today. KOMU 8's Wilson Trong is in the studio to tell us more about what it looked like. Wilson.
Evening, Noah. Today's protest was advertised as a day-long event for all Americans against the vaccine mandate. When I got there at around 8:30 this morning, as many as 50 people were already outside the 3M building holding signs with similar messages. For the second week in a row, the sidewalks outside the Columbia 3M plant was full of employees protesting the federal vaccine mandate. Lawmakers who showed up today told me that they plan to work on a bill to push back the mandate. Reporting in studio, Wilson Trong, KOMU 8 News.
More than 530,000 Missouri children are now eligible for the Pfizer COVID-19 vaccine. The CDC officially approved the vaccine for children ages 5 to 11 yesterday. The state has adopted those recommendations, but is still planning how to deliver the vaccine to local health departments. According to the Boone County Health Department, vaccines will be available in schools in a few weeks. One mid-Missouri parent says she's happy her 10-year-old will be able to get a dose.
We've worked very hard to keep him safe all this time and are just excited that he'll be more safe and more likely to be healthy.
Palmer says she believes getting children vaccinated will help reduce community transmission of COVID. The Pfizer vaccine for the 5 to 11 age bracket is a smaller dose given 3 weeks apart. With CDC recommendation, emergency use authorization for children 5 to 11, Kansas City children can now get their vaccine. Walgreens will be offering vaccines to children nationwide beginning November 6th. Proof of date of birth is required and a parent must be present. CVS will offer vaccines to children at select locations beginning November 7th. Children's Mercy Hospital, the Platte County Health Department, and Lawrence Douglas County Public Health will offer vaccines in KC as well. Here's what's happening right now. The Federal Reserve will begin slowing economic aid as inflation worries rise. It's provided the aid since the pandemic erupted last year. The Fed's announcement comes against backdrop of surging prices across the economy in food, rent, heating oil, cars, and other necessities. A man has died after a fire in a St. Louis apartment building. The St. Louis Fire Department confirmed the death this afternoon. There's no word of any injuries, and firefighters were able to put out the fire. The St. Louis Regional Bomb and Arson Squad is currently investigating that scene. Coming up, how professional sports teams in Missouri are making history with sports betting. And results from a mayor's recall vote in Nixa coming up.
And we're finally doing okay with that pollen count, of course, as we continue now into the colder part of the season. So a great time to have the fresh air going through the home. And when will it finally warm up where you might actually enjoy the fresh air a bit more? I'm tracking that coming up.
Welcome back. Some of the biggest professional sports teams in Missouri are teaming up in an effort to legalize sports betting. KOMU8's Danielle King is in the studio to tell us the steps needed to make that happen.
A week ago today, the St. Louis Blues, St. Louis Cardinals, St. Louis City SC, and Kansas City Royals made history. They are the first coalition of teams to attempt the legalization of sports gambling. In a statement from the teams, as key stakeholders regarding the possible legalization of sports wagering in Missouri, we are united in our goal of supporting a responsible Missouri sports wagering law that is good for our teams, our fans, and the citizens of the great state of Missouri. An attorney in Jefferson City who is working toward a constitutional amendment has submitted 9 ballots for public comment. The ballots include language about the wagering taxes gamblers would face. They range from just under 7% to 21% and would go towards roads and education. The ballot also details how the gambling would be regulated and where the wagering would be allowed. An MU sports law instructor sees the teams attempting to legalize sports gambling as one for the books.
So this is kind of history, quote unquote. It kind of depends on what your definition of history is, but I think it is definitely, at the very least, a turning point.
That turning point all falls on the 9 ballots in my hands. You can find these on the Secretary of State's website and give public comments there. If approved, there's a state approval process before petitions would be available to sign. And if there are enough signatures collected, any of these ballots could be voted on next year. Reporting live in the studio, Danielle King, KOMU8 News.
A mayor in southwestern Missouri survived a recall vote. Mayor of Nixa, Brian Steele, was the subject of a recall effort. The recall came after Steele issued an executive order in 2020 to require masks. Supporters of the recall argued the city council should make that decision, not the mayor. According to KY3, only about a quarter of voters in Nixa supported the recall of Steele. This means he can serve the remainder of his term, which ends here in April 2023.
Now, from the Ford Sports Desk, KOMU8 Sports.
We are live at the Walsworth Family Columns Club at Faurot Field for a really cool event tonight. KOMU8, a proud sponsor of the Taste of the Tigers, an event that helps raise money and awareness for the Central Bank, or the Food Bank of Central and Northeast Missouri. And Lindsay Lopez is the president of the Central and Northeast Missouri Food Bank. And Lindsay, this is a really cool event. And how important is this to what you do every year?
That's festive atmosphere tonight. Sorry, it's a little disrupting. The Score Against Hunger campaign is our largest annual fundraising campaign. This is part of it, and it really is key to the work that we do.
What kinds of things are people getting to enjoy tonight that also really help you out in your mission throughout the state?
We have live auction items, silent auction items. We have some of the best food and beverage vendors across the community. And of course, we'll have Tiger Talk being broadcast live here at 7 p.m. with Coach Drinkwitz and Mike Kelly.
What can people do if they aren't able to be here tonight that can still help you out? Because I know, especially as we've gone through the pandemic, there are a lot of folks who are still in need across the region that you cover, and it's really important.
So true. We would encourage people to go to our website, that's sharefoodbringhope.org.
And what kinds of things do you accept? You accept not only monetary donations, but also food donations, right?
Contributions of food, contributions of money, contributions of time, talent, and treasure. We take it all. So we just appreciate any help that people can offer us.
Lindsay, appreciate it. Thanks for your time, and good luck with the event tonight.
Thank you so much. Appreciate it.
Lindsay Lopez, the president and CEO of the Food Bank of Central and Northeast Missouri. We do have some other sports stories to talk to you about today. Unfortunately, some sad news for Missouri football fans. Warren Powers, former Missouri football coach, passed away late last night. He coached Mizzou from 1978 until 1984. He had a career record at Missouri of 46, 33, and 3. The Tigers consistently knocked off some national powerhouses during Powers' tenure, including Notre Dame, Nebraska, and Oklahoma, an exciting 7 years that he was the head coach. Now, Powers battled Alzheimer's late in his life. His wife, Linda, who was a saint in helping take care of Warren the past few years, recently passed away herself, and the couple did not have any children. Warren Powers gone at the age of 80. Well, the Chiefs host the Packers Sunday at Arrowhead Stadium, but they won't see Aaron Rodgers. The reigning NFL MVP has reportedly tested positive for COVID and will miss at least 10 days. The other layer to this story, Rodgers told the media over the summer that he was, quote, immunized, but it turns out Rodgers is not vaccinated, according to ESPN and the NFL Network. Reports say that Rodgers had a, quote, alternative treatment for COVID that the NFL did not recognize as a replacement for vaccination. Well, the Jefferson City Jay football team back in the state playoffs after a bye last week, and they are 1 win away from the district championship game. The Jays started out their first season under new head coach Damon Wells 0-3, but they have caught fire behind a pair of 1,000-yard rushers, Kevion Pendleton and David Bethune. The Jays have won 5 out of their last 6 games, and they enter Friday's district semifinal with Kirksville at Atkins Stadium red hot.
They're willing to grow. They don't think they know it all. But most importantly, they show up all the time over the summer, all the time in the spring. They work like crazy, so it's not just football and football practice.
Well, we will look forward to having highlights of the Jays and so many other teams on Friday Night Fever this Friday. For now, live at Faurot Field at this great event, the Taste of the Tigers. Ben Arnett, KOMU8 Sports, back to wrap up KOMU8 News at 6 right after this.
Of rain isn't until the middle of next week, about a week from today. Next Wednesday is going to be your best chance for rain. So it's going to be a lot of dry time, but really a lot of fall conditions are ahead in the next week.
I was going to say it's going to start feeling a little bit more seasonal. Nah.
Yes. Yeah.
Yes. Okay. That's our time for now. We'll see you at 10.
Witness testimony is over in the murder trial of Joseph Elledge. I'll tell you what's next.
And a local pediatrician weighs in vaccination plans for younger kids. This is KOMU8 News at 6.
Coverage you can count on. KOMU8 News starts now.
Today, jurors heard from the last witnesses in the Joseph Elledge murder trial, including another few hours of testimony from Elledge himself. Today, describing what he did with the shovel he used to bury Meng Shi Ji, and answering whether or not he was trying to hide the body from police. Good evening, everyone. I'm Noah Klein. Thanks so much for joining us. The jury was sent home earlier today. Closing statements will happen tomorrow. KOMU8's court reporter Peyton Headley was in court all day. Peyton, the defense's final expert witness, admitted he wasn't able to determine how Meng Shi Ji died.
Today, the jury heard from a medical pathologist. He was the third and final witness for the defense. He helped with the autopsy for Ji's body and answered questions about her cause of death. And that's a question that no one has been able to answer so far, how Ji died. And his response to both sides, he doesn't know. The defense asked if it's possible if Ji died from a subdural hematoma after Elledge pushed her and she hit her head on the ground. He said it's possible, but there's no way for him to determine that through skeletal remains. The defense also asked about the potential of Elledge being able to break Ji's ribs from performing pressing maneuvers on her back during a massage on their bed. He said it seemed very unlikely, even impossible. The prosecutor argued they don't need cause of death because they know Elledge killed her.
You absolutely, let's make this real clear, you did not rule this cause of death or manner of death as being an accident. Correct? That's correct.
This morning, Elledge spent another 3 hours on the witness stand after spending nearly 8 hours testifying yesterday. Prosecutor Dan Knight continued his cross-examination, trying to show the jury that Elledge intended to kill his wife. Knight asked Elledge about how hard he says he pushed Ji the night before she died and where she hit her head, even asking him to demonstrate. He said he doesn't know and he couldn't demonstrate. He also asked Elledge what he did after he buried his wife. He said he threw away the shovel in a garbage compactor at an apartment complex off Grindstone and then went home to call 311 and file a missing person report.
You took responsibility for the things that you did, correct?
Yes, I did.
Told the jury how you felt about it?
Yes.
Did you ever intentionally try to harm or kill Meng Shi?
And court will reconvene tomorrow morning at 8:30 with closing arguments. Once closing arguments are over, it's likely that the jury will go into deliberation, meaning we could have a verdict as early as tomorrow. Reporting live in Columbia, Peyton Headley, KOMU8 News.
Peyton, thank you. After today's final witness testimony, I sat down with former prosecutor Bill Tackett about what could happen tomorrow. What is the defense going to aim to prove tomorrow in closing arguments?
they're going to say what Joseph Elledge said on the stand, and that is this is a simple case, tragic as it is. He pushed this woman. She went to bed. He didn't know she died. He gets up and then for 3 days he loses his mind and throws her in the trunk and goes and does all this conduct. That's a hard thing to sell on the back end. On the front end, though, you've got to prove that it wasn't just a push, and that's what made the medical examiner so critical today.
I'll have more from that interview tonight at 10. For a full look at today's events in court, go to KOMU.com. The Boone County Sheriff's Office thinks a man charged with murdering another man in his home might be in Nebraska or Iowa. Mark Achterberg was last seen fleeing the scene in a red Ram 1500 pickup truck. Deputies responded to a report of a gunshot wound Monday in the 5900 block of North Kent Drive. When they arrived, they found Justin Stidham lying in the basement floor in a pool of blood. A woman who says she's Stidham's girlfriend told KOMU 8 News that Stidham was friends with the suspect.
Mark came upstairs and he said, "I shot him." And I freaked out and I ran downstairs and Justin was laying on the basement floor bleeding out.
After he was shot, Stidham was taken to University Hospital, where he later died. The Boone County Sheriff's Department asked that anybody with information of Achterberg's whereabouts contact the Sheriff's Office immediately. All right, Kenton, thank you. A state law that outlines police officer rights is affecting how Columbia's Citizens Police Review Board does its job. That board is meeting tonight. KOMU 8's Steffi Roche is at City Hall with more on why the NAACP is concerned with these changes. Steffi.
Noah, the meeting happening right now is the first Citizens Police Review Board meeting since the Police Bill of Rights was added to the city code. At November 1st City Council meeting, the council voted to update the city code to include the new rules for police officers. A few of the new changes are that officers cannot be questioned by more than 2 investigators, and citizens will have only 10 days to file an appeal after the police chief makes a preliminary determination about their complaint. Mary Ratliff, the president of the Columbia chapter of the NAACP, voiced her concerns in an email addressed to Columbia Mayor Brian Treese and city council members. KOMU 8 News was also CC'd on that email. In it, she said, quote, "This is very disappointing for me to see Columbia falling in line with the national trend to abandon efforts to right the wrong done many Black Americans as far as fairness in law enforcement goes." End quote. I reached out to Ratliff for further comments, but did not hear back.
On a personal opinion, not of the board, because the board has not made an opinion about that decision, I would say that it's definitely hindered a lot of the abilities to get some things done in a timely fashion.
Council member Carl Scala spoke to me over the phone. He said he shared concerns with Ratliff, but didn't have the power to change things. He said to avoid a potential lawsuit for going against state law, the city council, quote, "decided to vote in compliance with state law," end quote. Other items on the agenda include elections and discussions about mental health. Reporting live in Columbia, Steffi Roche, KOMU 8 News.
All right, Steffi, thank you. There are now more places to get kids vaccinated who are 5 to 11 years old. MU Healthcare is holding its first clinic for this age group right now. Columbia Public Schools will hold clinics for students to get their first shot starting next Monday. However, schools won't be able to give that second dose until students return from winter break in January. The district says parents can choose to go somewhere else if they don't want to wait. One pediatrician says she thinks parents should follow the current recommendations.
The most data that we have supports the current recommendations of the 3-week in between vaccines and in between doses. And I think it's a better idea to stick with those guidelines and recommendations that we have.
Blunt says that it is too early to see if kids will need booster shots. MU Healthcare's clinic goes until 8 tonight at the South Providence Medical Center. There's another one on Saturday. Missouri has joined 10 states challenging President Joe Biden's vaccine mandate for healthcare workers. The administration now requires millions of healthcare workers to be vaccinated against COVID-19. Federal contractors and businesses with more than 100 employees are also required to get vaccinated. The lawsuit says the vaccine requirement is unprecedented, unreasonably broad, and infringes on states' rights. Biden's administration says the rules supersede state policies and are necessary. Coming up, how a local group is helping teachers improve their classroom. And find out how you can get a new job behind the wheel.
Temperatures cooling into the middle 40s here tomorrow morning with this rainfall, then just middle 50s tomorrow afternoon with sunshine and wind coming in. We drop down into the 30s starting for our Friday as we head into the weekend. Track everything through that weekend into next week coming up.
Welcome back. Some Jefferson City schools got a surprise today. Money for educational programs. The Jefferson City Schools Foundation presented grants to several different schools today. KMUH's Reagan DeTrolio is in the studio to tell us more about where that money's going. Reagan.
The JC Schools Foundation awarded grants to fund school projects and equipment that will help students in math, literacy and reading, and leadership development. The foundation received multiple application reviews from teachers with creative ideas on how to improve the learning environment. Some of these grants went to teachers who propose education technology tools that guide students in reading to inventions like a school radio tower. Mid-America Bank funded the grants totaling $7,000.
We reached out to Mid-America Bank knowing they were new to town and that they wanted to make an impact, not only to our community, but specifically into the public schools.
Jefferson City High School received grant money to help start a student radio station.
Over the last couple of years or so, ever since our big closure from COVID, we've been trying to get this project off the ground. We applied for a couple of grants over the years to make a low-power AM radio broadcast tower here at the school.
The project is called J Radio. The school received $1,500 in grant money to make it happen. In the studio, I'm Reagan DeTrolio, KOMU 8 News.
Welcome back. Missouri Workforce Development is hosting its free training for people wanting to get a commercial driver's license. CDLs are needed for truck drivers and bus drivers, both jobs needed in demand right now. Today's training took place at the Missouri Jobs Center in Jefferson City. The truck industry is experiencing a nationwide shortage where drivers are needed. The program is for low-income people. Those who meet certain criteria will get paid training, job placement. One supervisor says a grant will help waive fees for applicants.
With this grant that's being offered, it would pay for all their schooling costs as well as dormitory costs.
The next training is scheduled for November 15th in the Rolla area. A full list of those trainings can be found on our website over at KOMU.com.
Then we are colder through the weekend, highs just in the 40s there with some wind chill.
We do have some breaking news we want to report to you. That murder suspect we brought earlier from the murder out of Boone County has been caught in Iowa, so a new development there. We'll continue to keep you updated. Right now, the most up-to-date information is going to be on KOMU.com. But for now, that is the new update. He's been found, caught in Iowa. His name is Mark Achterberg. I'll have the latest tonight at 10. For now, we'll see you.